And your citizen dress will relate to this meeting, which is the Committee of Finance. Any resident want to come up? You have 3 minutes. Everyone, 3 minutes, Chief.
It's going to be a little bit more than 3 minutes with me.
No, sir. It's
Yes,
3
it is.
minutes.
Yes, it
because
is.
if we do more, with all due respect, Mayor.
Just respect me then.
Mayor, with all due respect.
Okay.
If I give you more than 3 minutes, it would be unfair to let somebody else.
If you give me.
And that's the procedure, Mayor.
If you give
so
me.
if you would, please, 3 minutes.
If you give me. I just want to comment on several things that you mentioned. And, you know, you originally said it wasn't going to be political, but you had to throw me in there. But first of all, before I go into what I wanted to say, I want to commend Matt Stacy today. He's been here for 20 years and working in this village. Sidewalks. From time to time, we get calls in regards, and even when I'm traveling through the village, we have a number of sidewalks, or we had a number of sidewalks, and there's probably some more out there that created trip hazards. I've heard from residents in regards to children riding their bikes, falling over the sidewalks. So we take a look at it, and we get it done to try to relieve any type of responsibility or liability, I should say, that may have that may come towards the village. Trees, tree lady, trustee. From time to time, and depending on the weather, because storm conditions and things like that can create a problem in regards to cutting down trees. For the most part, Public Works handle as many trees as they can. Pekarsky, they recommend not cutting down live trees because they also help with, when we get rain, those trees suck up a lot of water. Diseased trees, yes, cut them down. But from on a yearly basis, that budget may change whether we have bad storms. But for the most part, early on in this administration, we did a lot of tree trimming. And we cut down a lot of diseased trees, and a lot of those trees were cut down because of the fact that they jump from tree to tree when we get the ash borer beetle. So we did a lot of work early on in this administration. When you talk about the budget, Yvonne, how many times have I been in your office discussing the budget with you? That's the staff right there. And if I'm giving the recommendations, and if I've given this board recommendations, it usually falls on deaf ears and is voted against. So I've discussed this budget with Yvonne, and she's relayed some of my discussions with her, with you, Mr. Kemp, and made some of those recommendations. So as far as the budget goes, I have been in contact with Yvonne Redmond. I don't understand what you're talking about pilferage of the gas. Because, you know, I think you said we spent $67,000 on gas last year, or the year before, and it's been budgeted for $75,000. When I came into office, we had a number of cars going home. I had those cars turned in. I think we're at about $130,000 a year in spending for fuel. So, Mr. Urban recommended a better way of trying to make sure that we don't have pilferage and we don't have people taking gas for personal reasons. So I think where we're at right now, I think we've done a good job in regards to holding the fuel costs down. The street sweeper, you mentioned the fact that this is the first time you're hearing about the street sweeper. I think you were on the board when you approved for the lease purchase on the street sweeper. So I'm not sure where you're on that. As far as bonds go, when I came into office, we had a bond I think was out since 2001. Matter of fact, we were contacted by the Comptroller's Department that they were not going to release any funds to us unless we made good on that bond, and they forgave a lot of the money that we owed on that bond. So there's been previous administrations, there's other villages that rely on bonds to operate. I'm not saying that we should rely on bonds, but in the occasion where we need to do a bond or refinance a bond, I think I don't think anything's wrong with it. You mentioned the fact of the liquor store sidewalk. And I know you was jabbing at me on that. But part of that sidewalk, matter of fact, the majority of that sidewalk was the village's sidewalk. And I talked to the liquor store, and it was in such bad condition, it was a trip hazard also. I talked to the liquor store owners, and I told them, I said, we're going to replace it, but I want you to contribute half, and that's why they contributed half. It was nothing in regards to a 50-50 program. I want to know how much you spent on your lawyer, and is it in the budget? The attorney that you guys are using, the trustees, some of the trustees, not all the trustees, I want to know how much you spent on them, and I want to know, did you put any money in the budget for that? And why do we have a second lawyer?
You want an answer now? Why don't you get all of it out, then I'll answer it at the end.
Answer me on this one.
I'll let you finish.
I'm just about done.
You done?
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay, if you would, I'll answer your question at the end.
Okay. And the was it $80,000 that you spent on the youth center?
No.
How much was it?
Corrected, you know it's not.
How much was it?
60.
60. What happened?
I'll answer that too after you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And I'll answer that as soon as the next person comes up.
I want you to answer me now.
Mayor, with all due respect.
I'm trying to respect you.
This is a finance committee meeting.
You're exactly right. And everything that I've talked about includes finance.
I don't want to be disrespectful to you. I don't want to go back and forth. I want to answer.
So you want to answer me after all the rest of the people speak?
No, I'll answer your question once you let the other person, but you've been up there now for at least 6 minutes, and you had 2 questions for me. I'm going to answer them for you very succinctly. Okay, but if you would please let the other person come up and I'll answer your question.
I'm not done yet. I want to know, since we're talking about the budget, I want to know how much has been budgeted for your attorney. Right. And I want to know, Yvonne, can you tell me how much is spent so far on the attorney?
And while you're doing that with the attorney, which is what I was going to ask you since the mayor, and that's the same question. Also, he asked what was budgeted for the attorney, and thus far, year to date, it's been $9,000 for the year that we've had him. Is that correct?
We have spent
$9,000. What is the fee for our attorneys for the other 3 attorneys that we have also? We have 3, I believe. Could you give us the amounts of those? And we're not budgeted for them because you don't budget for the attorneys. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
okay, what are those amounts for those 3?
for fiscal year 19 so far, we have spent $121,320.09 on legal fees.
Is that for total legal fees, including all 3 attorneys?
That is
Or
correct.
and that includes Murphy,
That includes
Giannopoulos,
yes,
and who else?
Olson and
Olson.
Stirk, and also Robbins. I can't think of her name. Miss Elliott's firm.
Well, no, Miss Elliott, you subtract 9K from that. Hers is 9,000, you said.
Correct.
So it's about 100 and what? 10 for the other attorneys, correct? Whatever 9,000
Yes,
minus
roughly.
121. I went to public school.
112,000.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mayor? Because I'll answer your second one, unless you had another one.
No, I just wanted to know,
Because we're really getting into now 8 minutes, and I want to
counting.
give everybody the 3 minutes.
about the youth center.
I can answer that now.
Okay.
As you well know, Mayor, I'm going to take my time on this one because this comes up all the time. You and I agreed about the youth center. As a matter of fact, you tried to talk me into doing a steel building, S-T-E-E-L.
You're exactly
building.
right.
And you said, is there any other buildings that you would like to do? And I said, well, Mayor, do you want the building? Because I think I can do something with that building. And you said, well, if you really want the building to do it, let's do it.
No, that's incorrect.
If you really want the building, we'll go ahead and do that building at 145th and Lincoln. That was you and our conversation.
I'll correct you when you get done.
Okay. No, correct, because I may be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't mind being corrected. What was
You
said?
came up and told me it was going to take about $140,000 initially. And I said, you can build a steel building for $80,000, and all you had to do was put a concrete slab in and bring the utilities in. And you could put a second floor in it. but you were so adamant about doing it in that building, and I told you about the flooding in that building. I told you about the mold in that building. So, oh, Mayor, I can make it work. I can make it work. So I said, okay. And you went in, and you spent that money. I don't understand why you need a bathtub in the youth building.
All right, let me answer that. You were doing fine until you said that you told me about a mold situation in the building. You and I, Mayor, never had a conversation.
I disagree with you.
Let me finish. I won't interrupt you,
Go
sir.
ahead. Go ahead.
You and I never discussed a mold issue in that building. The only time mold or lead came in is after you and I had a conversation about me running for mayor. I met with you for over 6 hours at Wilma's in June of about 2 years
You're exactly
ago.
right. And you told me you wasn't going to run if I ran.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish, because I'll let you finish. We were in your place for over 6 hours. I told you I shouldn't even be in that place. It was during Ramadan, a place that cooks swine. But I wanted to meet with you because our meeting.
You chose to meet me there.
Please let me finish, man. I'll listen to you.
Go ahead.
I chose to meet you there because we wanted to meet somewhere else, but your worker did not show up, so we had to meet at your place. It was myself and Mr. Pearson. Is that right, Mr. Pearson?
He wasn't there for the 6-hour meeting.
Mr. Pearson was there for the meeting, and I stayed for 6 hours.
That was the second meeting.
The meeting that we were there, the three of us were together. And pardon me for taking up your time, because I wanted to just go to 3 minutes, but I need to answer this because now truth is going to be said about this.
Yes, we know how truthful you are.
Well, we don't want to get no personal attack. I'm going to answer his question. The reason why. Well, that's. You're right. You're right. You're right, Ms. Butler. You're absolutely right, Ms. Butler. So I'll let that go if he wants to continue to think that I spent $80,000, but it was the mayor that shut it down. Yes.